Hey folks, Ben Gilbert here with Engadget, and we're here with Shuhei Yoshida, president of Sony's Worldwide Studios. Could you just kind of break down what that means, right? You guys showed a slide last night that had a handful of different studios listed. So what is Worldwide Studios at Sony?
Yeah, so Worldwide Studios, we produce games for PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So we are the first-party game development, and we have 14 studios across 3 regions. And many studios also work with external development houses as well. We have internally maybe 2,500 people working across studios, and maybe about similar number of people working outside as our development partners.
Sure, and the kind of studios you're talking about outside is stuff like Naughty Dog or Guerrilla Games, perhaps.
Well, no. Naughty Dog and Guerrilla Games are part of our internal teams. The example of external teams might be Quantic Dream, in France.
Sure.
They are independent developers working with us.
Okay, and so we're here at Gamescom 2013, the biggest game show in the world. Something like 300,000 people show up, and it's a big show for Sony, right? You guys are the only ones of the console makers who did a big press conference, and you kicked off things with a very interesting, very subdued, kind of quiet presentation, and it was really unique, right? And it showed a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of confidence and a lot of, I guess. It projected a good sense of what we can expect from the PlayStation 4. So I guess I'd love to hear what went into that and what thought process was behind doing a very different kind of opening.
Yeah, so we wanted to show the actual PS4 system software working.
Right.
We were not able to do that during E3. We did some video presentations,
sure.
Using our actors, playing out, but it's very hard to follow what's really happening because we are cutting the camera, to in and out. So we wanted to show some real life scenarios, like I was doing, browsing the information about games that's promoted to the system software.
Sure.
So it's like social media. The most relevant information will be promoted to the top page of your PS4, mm-hmm. and what you see is different from what your friend would see,
sure.
On his or her PS4. And even before you launch a game, you know what's going on with your friends or with a game. And I browsed the page that's called Live with PlayStation.
Right.
That means other people playing PS4 games and broadcasting their gameplay will be promoted to nice pages.
Sure.
And so I can browse what the other people are playing, and the popular streaming or my friends streaming will be promoted.
Right.
And so I picked the Killzone game demo gameplay broadcast that was going on, mm-hmm. and watched the game, and I decided to join into the multiplayer.
So just to be clear there, you were joining somebody else's game, right? It wasn't that you were seeing that point in the game and saying, that's the point in the game on my system that I want to jump into in single player. You were literally jumping into somebody else's game that they were playing in, well, maybe it was in action, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was a multiplayer game.
Right.
So the game is set up to accept the people joining in the middle of the session. Yeah, so we allow that for the game creators to have an option to allow that to happen. So not just looking at the game. If you have noticed at the left-hand corner, in some we allow the game to create some light interactivity, mm-hmm. like dropping some items or doing some voting for some things, not necessarily actually playing the game, or directly participate in that multiplayer action. So that's all options we are giving the game developers to make use of. So before on PS3 you had to launch a game and go to the game menu, sure. and trying to find what what your friends are playing or what games you might want to join. But on PS4, you can just start browsing on the system software before you decide to launch a game.
Absolutely, and the Live with PlayStation is something that is especially interesting, right? It's something that on both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, there's a huge social and streaming functionality, right? That stuff is really played into the way that both Sony and Microsoft have designed the consoles this time around. And it's really an interesting aspect of things. And I guess I'd love to hear your perspective on how you see that stuff evolving, right? It's currently on both systems. There's a trending stuff, and you see some of your friends' stuff populate, and that's really interesting. But it's kind of the base level of where we could start with this, right?
Yeah. So while we are designing the PS4, a lot of people started to watch the game stream.
Sure.
And it's fun to watch other people play, especially the kind of games that involve some skills or strategy. People want to learn how other good players are doing. Sure. And some videos, streams are really good about people who are playing, talking about what they are doing, while they are playing. And it's a great way to learn about the game or to enjoy without playing that game. So we really wanted to make it really easy for anyone to be able to do that. So that's the thinking behind the feature.
And there's some other stuff that we've seen kind of arise from the world of live streaming, right? Stuff like shoutcasting or the esports world. Is there stuff that Sony is interested in doing on that end of things that kind of engages that more that it's an evolution of the gamers, right? Like the streaming stuff is still new. For me, it's a little weird, right? Because I grew up on Nintendo and PlayStation 1 and stuff like that, right? There wasn't streaming options, and now things have changed a lot. So I guess I'd like to hear how you folks, if you're interested at all in engaging that kind of market more directly.
Oh yeah. So the games are becoming more and more complex, and the games are giving more options, the way to play. And one person really cannot, explore all different kinds of, ways to play. So the looking at the other people's play is the, brilliant, way to experience all different, aspects of the game that you like. So I think it's a natural, progression in the industry that as the people have more access to what other people are doing through the, social media, gaming is a great entertainment that they choose to watch in addition to any other, entertainment options.
Okay, and kind of jumping to another major beat of the press conference yesterday was the big push for indies. I mean, that's something that you personally have been pretty engaged with. I mean, you were sitting at the press conference next to Rami Ismail of Lambir, a notable and very nice indie guy, and he's creating Mercenary Kings. His studio is creating Mercenary Kings for the PlayStation 4, and that's been a big push for you though, right? It's something that has been personal to you, perhaps. I mean,
Yeah. It's personal to me and many of us working for PlayStation.
Sure.
For many years we have been a big fan of working with smaller teams because they take chances. They come up with something really unique, and sometimes it's very personal. And the things working with these smaller teams have been like when we look at large scale development, there are certain kind of genre we kind of dismiss before we move into the development. Oh, it's too niche, or it's too weird. This has never been done before.
For instance, a game about an octopus father.
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. So if it has like a $25 million budget, maybe you wouldn't start that development. So the indies are totally opposite. Because they are smart. They in addition to the kind of games they want to create, they also look at what are the things that they do not necessarily compete with those big budget titles.
Sure.
So something unique like Octodad, they must be sure that once they have the game running, no other games would be like that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So that's the fun of working with these smaller teams. They always come up with something extraordinary.
Yeah. So another interesting thing with regards to indies and the situation on the last gen was there was a kind of separation there to an extent between, I don't want to call them indies, maybe smaller games versus retail games, right? And disc-based stuff versus the Super Stardusts of the world. And that seems to be changing a bit. How will that work on PlayStation 4, right? Will there be a separate section for these are PSN games versus PS4 retail? Is it all part of the same ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's been changing, even on PS3 is, we see more and more disc-based games coming out on digital as well. And in the past, disc games are disc games, and digital games are digital games, like you're saying.
Exactly.
And there's a huge separation. But on PS Vita, for example, all games are available digitally as well. So that's the way we are envisioning for PS4 as well. We basically expect all games to come out on digital form. And of course, some games are huge files, like 50 gigabytes. And some people may not have fast enough internet to download all these 50 gigabytes of game. And of course, some people still like to own the physical media that they can share with other friends. And so the distinction between these smaller titles, digital titles, and physical disc-based games are becoming blurry because some digital games might get a lot more content after few months or couple of years, and publisher might find some opportunity to release it on the disc later as well. So anything can happen, and what we can say for sure is all games will be available digitally.
Okay. It seems like we're talking almost about two different things though, right? Like there's one side where there's the distribution method, which is digital versus physical. And there's the other side, which is kind of these, what I think of as maybe smaller titles or the indie world, so to speak, versus the major, huge games, right? The games that I'm expecting to spend 30 or 40 hours in that I'm expecting huge production value, right? The kill zones of the world, if you will, versus the Rain or Mercenary Kings, for instance. And on something like PlayStation Vita, I know that when I use the store, I look to smaller stuff. I want there to be a smaller thing, and I want it to be separated to an extent because I want to drill down and look at just those small games that I can play on the go, right, on a Vita. Whereas that might not apply on something like PlayStation 4 because it's a couch experience, right? I mean, you can remote play and stuff, not to disparage that, but I mean, most players are going to spend most of their time on a PlayStation 4 on a couch. So, yeah, I guess is it that there's some separation there, right? I guess I'm kind of trying to get at more of how PSN will be evolving to an extent, and the way that stuff is separated or not separated, for that matter, on the digital storefront.
Yeah, that's interesting. That as you say. So you're talking about more like a storefront, how the games will be organized into different categories.
Right.
So we've been evolving the PSN store. We introduced a new storefront on PS3 that's web-based, so that a lot more contents are served and changed on the fly from the server side. That's in expectation for the PS4. Generations, because PS4, the system software can take lots of web contents and use these dynamic content to be served. The system menu that I was showing was taking lots of live feed, just like PS3 PS Store now does. So I think that will allow us to cater to the need of the consumers, like you're saying. If you see more people want to see some more clear categorization of smaller titles, away from larger titles, we can do it, without major like reconstruction of the storefront. Yeah.
So, speaking to the web store, how will that stuff function? Right? Is that something that you'll just be going through the PlayStation mobile app, and that's how you can access PSN instead of having to go through a web interface? Yeah.
Now we are limiting the web store to be only available via PC, but as soon as we have it ready, we're gonna expand it to the mobile devices. And our plan is for you to be able to purchase any contents from your cell phone, for example, smartphone, and as soon as you hit the download starts at home, for your PS4. So the even bigger titles that takes couple hours to download. If you start the download early during the day, that will be ready, when you get home. So that's the idea.
That sounds good. That's good to know. Albeit I can be at the office and push download and get home, and it'll be there. Thankfully, when I'm home, instead of going through updates and whatever else when you get there.
Yes, and updates will be already also automatic.
Right.
Yeah, will happen in the background.
That's not tied to PS Plus or anything. That's every PlayStation 4.
Yeah, so that's basic functions will be for everyone.
Right.
But PS Plus members with some additional kind of convenience.
Of course. Well, what kind of additional conveniences? Maybe you weren't talking about that yet.
Yeah. We are not talking that detail as yet.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. And the last thing we talked, I think it was at E3. I brought up Oculus Rift, and you were visually excited as you are right now. So I'd love to hear more about that. Right. I think that you're such a passionate guy when it comes to this stuff, and it really comes through, and it's something that has been really interesting to me in terms of innovation in the gameplay space, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, let me say it's personal.
Sure, of course.
And I love this stuff, and I love what they are doing, and I clearly see the opportunity. The technology is maturing, and the VR has always been kind of like a dream of those nerdy people.
Of course.
Yeah, and so we feel that the time is kind of finally approaching that the real use cases maybe near. So it's super exciting for the future.
Sure.
And in terms of R&D, we have all those all kinds of things going on behind the scenes. So that's one of the areas I'm personally really interested in.
Yeah, me too. I love it. I keep asking everybody about it. I'm not. I feel like I need to. But so turning back to the press conference a little bit last night, there was a lot of stuff that, speaking to the many things you guys have in R&D, there's a bunch of games from a bunch of studios that we haven't heard anything about yet, basically. There's the folks at Naughty Dog, there's the folks at Media Molecule, and that's stuff that I'd be really interested to hear more about. It's when will we be hearing more on that front, right? I know that you guys just finished a presentation. When will we be hearing stuff next? But I loved Last of Us, and I'd love to hear more about what those folks are doing.
Yep. Yeah. So we are saying that every single studio that we have, the 14 of them, have some PS4 development going.
Right.
And many large teams have unannounced titles. And because of the time, transitioning, many teams are transitioning from PS3 to PS4. So you can expect many of them will be PS4 titles. So I am waiting for the team to say that, well, we feel comfortable showing it or announcing it. So I'm super excited with the early work that I've been able to see from all these teams working. Actually, Media Molecule demonstrated some interesting things in February, and that's not totally unrelated to what they are actually working.
Yes, that I would hope so. So I guess we'll wrap things up here. We'll presumably see more on the PlayStation 4 at Tokyo Game Show?
You can expect that.
Okay, I'll be there hopefully to ask you more questions.
That's great.
So, all right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Yoshida.
Yeah, thank you.